It's 1991. I just bought a Sega because Genesis does what Nintendo don't, and fax machines are revolutionizing business communications around the world.
You and faxes? This is a first.
Yeah, well, Holly told me I should wake up and smell the 90s.
Also, Acura had done a pretty damn good job on becoming North America's best-selling import luxury brand. By 1991, just 5 years after entering the North American market, Acura had firmly established itself as an upscale brand, already outselling its German and domestic competition. With the now second-generation Legend really trying to compete with those higher-end luxury cars, and the entry-level Integra really being more of a sports car than a luxury sedan, Acura detected room for a mid-level luxury sedan, perhaps with a hint of sportiness to help bridge the gap between the Integra and the Legend. And so Acura dropped the new sedan in 1992, the Acura Vigor. But what would the powertrain be? If the Legend had a V8 like most of its competition did, then a 6-cylinder might be appropriate, like the Lexus ES300, but since the Legend was a V6, maybe a 4-cylinder is more appropriate. But the Integra is a 4-cylinder, and at that point, it may as well be just a high-end Accord trim level, which, fun fact, is what the Vigor actually was for many years in Japan, but we'll get to that in a bit. So what's left? Does Honda build a 5-cylinder engine out of the blue, slap it in, and start chasing after Audi and Volvo sedans now? Well, actually, that's exactly what they did. Meet the G Series, Honda's new 20-valve single overhead cam inline 5-cylinder. It's sitting longitudinally mounted at an angle of 30 degrees under the hood of the new Vigor, and it's coming to an Acura dealer near you. Well, not actually, because it's not 1992 anymore, but yeah, you get it.
Take my heart,
So the first ever Vigor model was actually released in Japan in 1981. It was a higher-end, sporty, and more vigorous variant of the Accord, hence the nameplate. When we look at the interior pictures, we can see how the Vigor was a more luxurious version of the Accord interior with more standard features. They would always use the largest Accord engine available and had subtle styling differences. One way to identify a Vigor over an Accord was the Vigors would always have the license plate integrated into the rear bumper, where Accords had it on the tailgate. And so this is what the Vigor was for its first 2 generations, a Japanese market-only upscale Accord variant. Until 1989. In 1989, the platform was stretched and the larger Vigor was given an all-new powertrain, the G20A1, a longitudinally mounted 2-liter inline 5-cylinder. And in 1992, a longer and wider version of the Vigor was given a larger 2.5-liter engine, the G25A1, and sent off to North America to become Acura's newest model. Thanks for that. And sent off to North America to become Acura's newest model, the Vigor. So I actually found a PDF of a 1993 press release for the Acura Vigor, and in it, Acura states that the Vigor is targeted to appeal to the type of driver who wants a balance of luxury and performance. Their key goals were to make it sporty yet sophisticated, aggressive yet refined, with an excellent level of performance and safety. Styling-wise, I have mixed feelings about the exterior. It's not offensive in any way, but it's a little bit bland, I'm not gonna lie, although I love it in that jade green color. MotorWeek states in their initial review of the 92 model that most people they came across thought it was a new Accord model, until they looked inside. The Vigor came in 2 trim levels, LS and GS, and even the LS model was well equipped with AC, subtle wood trim, and a leather-wrapped steering wheel. The GS model adds leather seats and door inserts and a power sunroof. I do think the interior, especially on the GS model, is very nice and definitely an Acura level interior. I do think the gauge cluster is a little odd though, the way there are 2 extra circles that look like they should be more gauges, but they're not. One of them contains the classic Honda car diagram, which many Honda and Acura models used for years, which shows if a door or trunk lid is open or even a burnt out brake light bulb, and the other houses some of the vehicle's warning lights. But they don't all fit in there, so there's still some other warning lights distributed elsewhere throughout the instrument cluster. I don't know, that just seems like an odd choice to me. It's almost like they were going to give us a voltmeter and an oil pressure gauge, but Bill from accounting said it was out of budget at the last minute and made the designers take them out. The standard AM/FM cassette radio on the LS had 8 speakers, and you could get a CD changer as a dealer installed option. On the GS, you got something called a digital signal processor. This was a microprocessor that could alter the signal with various levels of delay and reflection to simulate 6 different listening environments, in case you ever wanted to listen to your favorite Def Leppard cassette in a cathedral. Actually, now that I think about it, Pour Some Sugar on Me echoing through a massive cathedral sounds pretty awesome. Okay, it's time to talk about the powertrain. The inline-5 G25A1 was tilted at a 35-degree angle and, as previously mentioned, longitudinally mounted to fit under a low Euro-style hood line and provide 60-40 weight distribution. We normally see this set up in a rear-wheel drive car, but this is a Honda product and anything short of a mid-engine supercar at this time had to be front-wheel drive, even when the competition wasn't. This meant that since the transmission was mounted to the back of the engine behind the front wheels, power had to be sent back forwards, back to the front,
Back to the future!
through the bell housing to a front limited slip differential. The engine was rated at 176 horsepower and had a decent 0 to 60 time, and its stiffer suspension made it feel fun and sporty to drive, especially with the standard 5-speed manual transmission. And this is where the Vigor starts to set itself apart from its local competition, namely the Lexus ES300. Because up until this point, let's face it, the ES had the Vigor beat in almost every category. It looks nicer, has a more luxurious interior, more standard features, a bigger engine, and a smoother, quieter ride. Now, I always thought that the ES was automatic only, but I just found out doing this research that there was a manual for 92 and 93, so now I need to find one of those. But anyways, they did not feel as sporty as the Vigor, and after 93 did not have the manual transmission option. And this makes sense. Acura stated in their press release that this car was to be targeted towards individuals that wanted a blend of luxury and performance. The Vigor was essentially a luxury sports sedan, but it didn't sell. Now maybe it's because the target demographic were buying the 6-speed Legend GS sedan or the Legend Coupes, or maybe they wanted rear-wheel drive cars, or maybe Acura overestimated the demand for a sports sedan to begin with. Either way, the ES vastly outsold the Vigor. Perhaps Lexus had a better understanding of who was buying these types of vehicles in the 90s. In response to this, Acura would make some changes in 1994, which included softening the suspension and revamping the steering rack to make the car smoother and more isolated from the road. But I would argue that this compromise only made the Vigor less desirable to the small percentage of people that did want a sports sedan, and still didn't elevate it to the luxury level of the ES300. The lack of improvement in market response and continuing poor sales would lead me to believe that this is the case. And so in 1996, the Vigor was discontinued and replaced by the Acura TL. But this wasn't quite the end of the 5-cylinder story just yet.
It's an Acura 24-valve V6, like the Acura NSX. It's the power of sequential multi-port fuel injection, like the NSX. It's 4-wheel independent double wishbone suspension, like the NS.
It's also a 4-speed auto only. Okay, so just to clarify, in that ad they're talking about the 3.2 TL, which had the 3.2-liter V6 from the second generation Legend, but the first generation TLs came in 2 variants. The upper trim was the 3.2 TL, marketed as the more premium luxury option. The other option was the 2.5 TL, which was marketed as the more sporty option. See, this was when Acura changed all their names to letters with the engine displacement in front of them. It was really confusing and literally intended to get people to just call their cars Acuras instead of just by the model name, in order to spread more awareness of the brand. I explained this concept in a recent TikTok video I posted, so I'm just going to roll that clip. Market research in the 90s showed that most people were just referring to their Acuras by model name, but Acura wanted people to say the brand name, so they renamed all their models, so now everyone says, I own an Acura ZLX 3.5 to the power of 4 times pi, or something, I forget, it's an Acura. Okay, so while the 3.2 TL was the more premium sedan, the 2.5 TL was positioned as more of a sports sedan, and it still had basically the same 5-cylinder engine carried over from the Vigor. But the TL did not carry over a manual transmission option. Like I said, both TLs were automatic only. The 2.5 did have a stiffer suspension than the 3.2, but that was kind of all they did to differentiate it, unless you count the grille. You see, only on the premium 3.2 TL did you get the ultimate symbol of superiority and status, vertical grille lines. Your car may have more cylinders, Shannon, but I have the vertical grille, and oh wait, this video is about the 5-cylinder, so I don't actually have that. Okay, so there's no manual, but Lexus hardly makes any manuals and they sell just fine. The demographic buying premium sedans brand new in the 90s wasn't looking for sports cars. You think Uncle Jack cared about a manual transmission when he was trading in his old Buick? The only time he uses his left foot is to turn on the high beams. Okay then, so maybe the TL has upped its luxury and comfort game. Well, no. The 3.2 TL had a pretty nice interior with its standard leather, but the cloth on the 2.5, this just doesn't look very high-end to me. Yes, you could get the leather as an option on the 2.5, but I don't know, I still personally feel the Vigor interior was nicer. What do you guys think? At best, it's about the same. I guess I'm gonna have to buy an RL to finally upstage Shannon, but then she'll still have 2 more cylinders than me and rear-wheel drive. Honda, can't you just make one car with a V8, or at least give us rear-wheel drive? It's what the people want.
Acura 3.5 RL remains capable of holding on to Acura's piece of the turf a little while longer, at least until a V8 arrives, and we just hope that's soon.
In 1999, the TL was redesigned and the second generation was the 3.2 TL only. The 5-cylinder model was dropped and the new 3.2 TL had the transverse mounted J-Series V6, and so Honda's strange 5-cylinder experiment came to an end.